All right, so I'm back out here working on the car again, taking some time away from things I should be doing around the house, out here fooling around. You know how that is. Anyway, I'll get you turned around here and show you what I went up to. So I've got everything drilled out now. All my holes are ground off, all the drill burrs, everything is sprayed with a weld-through primer on the back side here. I might have a little more trimming to do once I get it in there. It's a little close on that one side over there because it's a little bit asymmetrical there for some reason or other. Nothing's perfect in this world. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and lay it back down on my rig here, bolt everything up, drop it in, and see how it all looks, and then proceed from there. All right, so I'm in the process of going around and using 1/4 inch head self-tapping screws here just to tie everything together, every other hole, so that I'll can get it tight as tight as possible before I go ahead and I start plug welding these various areas right here. So I got to go around this whole perimeter, every other hole, tie it down, make sure it's down firm across all these cross members here, and I can proceed to melting this thing together. Okay, so that took a little while, going around and spotting in all those drill holes all the way across around the perimeter, but it's in there, it's solid. So now I got to go back and grind off all those spot welds, make them look a little neater, and then we'll move on to the next thing, which I got to fill these holes in over here with some sheet metal. I think I'll do that first before I go on to anything bigger than this. Anyway, that's where I am with this. Let me get back here a little bit and see the whole thing. That's what it's looking like right now. Not bad. All right, although I've done this demonstration on a number of my other projects, you'd really have to mine pretty deep to go find it, so I thought I'd show you what this shrinking and stretching that I talk about all the time is about, for those who don't know. These are what are called shrinkers and stretchers. They stretch the metal, shrink the metal. It's pretty self-explanatory. They're probably one of the most inexpensive sheet metal working tools that you can buy. I don't know. I guess a set of these costs between $300 and $400, something without the stand. Basically, what you got to do is think of the metal as sort of like putty. You either squish it together or you could spread it out. Careful not to spread it out too much, because then you'll, like with aluminum, like I got here, if you spread it out too quickly, or you can split the metal. Mostly what I'm using here, obviously, on the car is mild steel. That has a little bit more tolerance to spread out. It's a little is not as brittle as aluminum can be. It's also important, if you're using aluminum, to use a soft compound. That also helps it to spread out a little bit. Mild steel sheet metal works really well with these, up to about 0.45. It gets to be tougher after you get thicker than that. That's about 22 gauge. Anyway, so basically all these do is have some opposing jaws that grab the metal, and then as you press down, they're configured in a way that they spread the metal out. And what I'm trying to do here in this case is I'm trying to introduce a curve in this direction using the stretcher. As you can see there, got to be very careful not to break the metal itself, but you can see that I just curved that, and then I actually did split this metal because it's a little thin and I went a little too far. But you can go a little bit more aggressive. Yeah, like I said, if you have steel, also the dimension helps. This is like 1 inch by 1 inch, roughly. So if you have a piece that's a 1/2 inch here, you could really get a really nice tight curve here before the metal would want to give up. So now I'm going to demonstrate how the shrinker works. It's going to basically push the metal together in the other direction. So. There's really no danger of splitting the metal in this direction because you're bunching the metal up, as you can see right there. And if you go over it, lightly, you can smooth out most of this. But you can see how this would come in handy. You could shrink or stretch this in the other direction if you're making a complex edge. Like most old cars have, the wheel openings are all deteriorated, and this is a perfect. It's a perfect set of tools to take a piece of sheet metal and bend it over 1 inch by 1 inch and create your own edge for your wheel opening. There's many other applications that you'll find once you get these that this comes in handy for. Just thought I'd show you that. Okay, with everything ground off, I originally was intended to fill this gap over here from the original side bed to this flange over here with some seam sealer, which in this area here wouldn't be that big of a deal. But I had some bigger gaps, and I decided to just go ahead and wipe it with some all metal, which is a body filler that has aluminum in it, and fill up that gap first and clean it all off, and then run a bead across there, because this will probably it may or may not, who knows, crack right there along that edge where it's connected. There's a flexibility point there. So that'll put a nice small bead of seam sealer around there instead of a big wide, trying to fill in like over here. That's a little bit wide for seam sealer. I mean, I can put my finger down in there, and over here it's a little bit wide also. So just going to fill it up with this all metal, and then I'll put a little bead along the edge of where the all metal connects to the side bed, and that should be good. Anyway, I've gone ahead and patched up all these holes here. In other words, there was this feature here. I had to, put a plate in here. Then there was this hole right here, which normally would line up with your hinge bolts right here. So I had to patch that in. Same with this. There was a little hole here in this panel, so that's filled in. Again, another hole over here. Another plate had to be put in here to clean up this corner here and mend this all together. Now this will be getting seam sealer right along this edge over here whenever I get to coating this. I think I'll just hit it with some primer right now to keep the flash rust from getting too wild before I really want to dig in. Wasn't intended on doing any body work yet, but I wanted to see what was going to happen with the all metal, and it seemed like that's the trick. I was going to put epoxy in there, but I'm almost out of the epoxy, and that stuff's like $70 for a tube, and probably need 2 tubes to go around the perimeter on this thing. So anyway, I'll move on. All right, so I got this thing back up on the wheel stands because I want to deal with the rockers. The final piece that needs to be joined together. As you can see, I've got a kind of a convoluted area here. Here's the pinch weld, lower pinch weld on the El Camino body. I left all of this intact, so this is acts like a beam. Here's the additional frame rail I put in on the Camaro. This is the sheet metal, or the sheet metal that came down from the upper pinch weld where the rocker was. So now I've got to join the two halves together. I've stared at it and stared at it and stared at it, said what would be the best way to do this, and I finally came up with this solution here, based on the fact that this is slanted. As you can see, it's got an angle to it, and then I wanted to transition it so that it would basically attach to the frame rail itself over here and join both of these halves together. So I'm putting together these plates here, which will be they'll be they'll be plug welded to the bottom side of the frame rail. But then this angled flange here goes up to the existing pinch weld on the El Camino, and it'll be plug welded there. And then I'll seal this top all the way down, hopefully with some epoxy, and then I'll drill some weep holes down the run here to make sure that this has some drainage to it. But anyway, this is what I finally came up with to go ahead and join these two halves together and finish this off. Anyway, I thought I'd show you that. It's a little glary here with the sun, but that's what I'm up to right now. Okay, so that's what it's looking like with the rocker cap complete. I have to close in the ends somehow on both sides, but other than that, I think I'm going to flip over to the other side while I've still got all this processing fresh in my mind, and build the other cap before I take this off and spray paint it with the weld through primer, and drill some holes for the drainage. But anyway, moving on. Okay, so I've got the rocker completely capped, welded up and ground off all the way down to the end. One of the details I had to spend some time on was the original rockers on the El Camino body have drains on them, so I didn't want to cap them over. So I had to make these little gutters, reliefs right here, in order to make sure that any moisture that gets into this closed system, which is the El Camino setup here that I just left together, if anything gets trapped in there, it has a way to get out. One there's one at the very end that's not blocked up, and another one right here to allow this anything to get out of this closed system right here. As far as my system is concerned, the cap, I took and I drilled a couple of drain holes in the bottom side, and then what I did was, oh gosh, I took this awl and stuck it in to the hole and then twisted it to the side. What this does is it creates this leading edge here, so that in the direction of travel where the car is driving down the road, any water or and dirt, debris would deflect over the top, and then it creates a little upstand here also to keep that out. But it doesn't deter any water from draining, as you're traveling out of these holes. So I've got just 3 of them, should be sufficient to go along the base here. One there, and one at the front here. So a lot of little details before I'm finished. This is the passenger side. I've got the other side welded up, but I have to do the grinding and some other things. I have one more little piece of closure that I'm going to put on here. The rear closure I can't get to without taking the tires off, so I'll get that at another time when I've got the tires and wheels off. But I want to close up this area right in here, just ahead of where this is where the fender ends, right at this spot right here. And so I just want to cap this off and close this up, and maybe fill in these drill holes over here, the old spot welds. Anyway, that's what I'm doing right now. I still have to prime it. I'll have to seam seal all the edges. Up in this area here, I'm going to put epoxy in here to finish that out, because I don't want to Bondo that, because this is an area that my Bondo's is not waterproof. So I'm in an area where it'd be susceptible to absorbing moisture. So I want to put epoxy. That would be which is the Fusor T21. That'll be nice and waterproof here, and it'll bond to that after this is primed though. So anyway, that's a lot to do, and I'll keep at it. All right, so this concludes this front end. Had to put a curved patch in here to connect it to the Camaro. Up into here, there was a couple of gaps that had to be filled with a little patch here, and I had to weld in all these former spot weld holes, and that closes up the front edge of this cap so the debris doesn't go in inside the cap that I put on there. So now I've got to proceed to the other side and repeat it all again. Okay, since I've got this the rocker all welded on, hasn't really been warm enough to really put a good paint layer on it, but it's on and ground off and everything. I've also come in here and doubled up this panel here, double thickness, just to fill in up to this El Camino door jamb. And this relates basically to the dashboard and the interior panels that I have from the Camaro, so that's why I extended this out. Hopefully I'll be able to use the kick panel and stuff like that based on this. It's going to have to be extended now that I've dropped this down another 2 inches, so there'll be a 2-inch gap I'll have to make up in that lower panel. But that inner panel works with the the emergency brake relief, or excuse me, I think that's the hood latch release, and the emergency brake mounts over here. At any rate, had a number of ways to go here. So what I wanted to do next, whether I wanted to get involved with clearancing the rear wheel tubs, but I decided I want to try and see if I can't get these doors on and see what kind of interference issues I might have over here. If I have to cut away any more material in here, clear when the door opens, and deal with that, because I really need to build this back, get some strength into this upper member over here, so that I can start fitting up my front fenders. And I have to have the doors on in order to find out what the relationship is for this joint at the front, to match that up with the front fenders. So I think I'm going to play with that. I think I've shown you this on other projects. This is a little rig I've made up for lifting the doors up by myself, getting them up in a line. It's just a floor jack, and I've taken where the central pad is that lifts on the floor jack. I've drilled and tapped some 1/4 holes, and I've got this plate that goes across here with a couple of flanges on it that through bolts into that pad, so that bolts this whole mechanism. It's got a couple of upright arms here, so that I can, use some ratchet straps to tie it back. And depending on what I'm carrying, what profile of door I'm carrying, I'll just take 2x4s and I'll cut a notch in them so that it grabs the bottom of the door, as you can see over here. And that way I can lift it up with ease, and I don't have to try and wrestle with it. Anyway, it's just something that I just came up with to help with these heavy doors. Anyway, we'll go on from here. Okay, so there it is with the door hung back on it. Of course, it's empty. Hopefully the hinge adjustment's going to hold once it gets all the weight in it. They're brand new hinges. Anyway, as you can see, I've got the back half of the front fender attached, and the reason for that is that El Camino fender's not going back on this thing. Only this portion is going back on it. I've got these Buick Regal fenders, and the front end is going to be a Buick Regal, and it's something that's been done before. It's nothing, no big experiment. I've seen it on a number of builds, and I like the way it looks, so that's what I'm going to do with this. And the problem is that the body line on the Buick Regal fender is in a different location here. So I have to splice the front half of the Buick Regal fender into this rear half that mates up with this door perfectly. I have Buick Regal doors on that donor car out there, but you're just basically chasing the body line all the way down. Then you'd have to alter the quarters, which I'm going to have to alter the quarters anyway. I'm going to put the arches from the Buick Regal on here. I think they'll give me a little more space for tire clearance, and they'll also match the as you can see, the Buick Regal has these large wheel arches here compared to let me see, here's the remnants of the El Camino front fender, and you can see that it's a much smaller feature. Anyway, so that's what I'm up to. Now I've got everything gapped and spaced and shimmed and everything the way I need it to be. And my biggest problem I thought I would have was when I opened the door, it was going to run into all of the structures that I'd previously built, but that's not an issue. Everything opens and clears just fine, so I'm really happy with that. That was a big what am I going to do if that doesn't work type of situation. And also, you can see in here, I've got I can see what I need in the way of clearance to build back this structure here when it comes time to do that. But first things first, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try and splice the the Buick fender on here as best I can, see if I can't locate it a little bit, see what else I've got going on as far as interference and mounting points and things like that. But anyway, that's where I'm at. All right, so this will give you an idea of the difference between the fenders on the Buick and the fenders on the Chevrolet. You can see I cut it right at the body line right here where this crease would be, and you can see that this body line is much higher relative to the Buick. And also you could see that this shape at the front of the door is different. So you'd have to change out the doors, and then, like I said, once you got back to here on the Buick, your body line again would be different along this side here. So I decided the best thing to do in order not to mess around too much was go ahead and keep these doors on here as is, because they're right for this car, and I won't have to fiddle around with this area either, because on the Buick it's pretty straight over here. You got a straight window. And anyway, bottom line is I backtracked away from what I was going to do, which was going to put the Buick sheet metal down to that seam, but just put the fenders on and basically mended in, I should say, using the back section of the Chevrolet fender. And so just a little bit of difference, but just enough to give you a little bit of trouble. Anyway, also you can see the Buick door has a little bit of this little flip up over here to come in and meet this detail here, and the hood's a bit higher than it is on the Chevrolet. So I'll have to make that modification to the door once I finish out this fender and see how that all looks. I just thought I'd show you what that's starting to look like now. All right, so I've got this right side fender mocked up too now, so there's the left side fender on. Again, mocked up. I still have to trim and weld both halves together. But over here you can see the importance of reestablishing these two bolt-up points right here on both sides. At any rate, I'm trying to establish the front end and see what I've got here, whether or not I can use, that's a radiator core support. The only reason I'd want to use the top of that is because it has everything set up for the hood latch right in the middle. So that would save me some time fabricating that. And but I can only use a little bit of it, a partial part. Also, it would help me to mount the headlights because that's where they mount to. At any rate, I'm fiddling around with this. You can see how it fits relative to where the Camaro fenders slope down, and this basically comes out straighter, which you know, the Camaro has this really jammed in, tilted radiator and air conditioner condenser here in the front, which I could pull it back, but then it would complicate it because I'd have to get non-stock hoses, so can't take advantage of that. Or I could, but it'd be more work actually, so I don't know what the advantage would be. So bottom line is I've taken this this piece, which represents the front end of the hood right over here, and marked the center point on it, and I left a 3/16 gap on both sides over here, and I put these temporary brackets here both to hold the height of the fender and also to hold the fender from swinging in and out. I'll have something more substantial going on there a little bit later on. I'm developing it as I go. This little bracket here is folded 90 degrees so that I can project my center line up here and hold this little rod stable while I did this, got this propped up. Now, like I said, I'll have to deal with that, see what I can use on that, if anything. But I did discover that the back of the hood on the El Camino is a little wider than the Buick. Not by much, but enough that I'm going to have to fill in a taper on the top of the fenders or on the hood, depending on which looks like it's going to be easier to do in order to make this all work out. But anyway, also I'm going to have to, like I said before, I'm going to have to do something to do this little transition over here. All right, so that's where we are with this, and I'll just keep digging, nibbling away at it, as they say. Okay, so I managed to get get that radiator core support from the Buick Regal trimmed down and slid in here. It's amazing. It all fit pretty good. I mean, we came right to the bottom of this structure right here and just cut that off completely, which is the actual radiator core support. And I had to trim some ears off on the backside to get it shoved in far enough so that I could bolt these two spots up here, which actually support the fenders. It's just held in there with a couple of bolts. I'm mocking everything up here to make sure I don't put anything in the way of anything else. Essential stuff like, where is it? Over here. Oh yeah. We'll move this grill out of the way. Yeah, this guy here, this is from the Camino. This is the windshield wiper fluid container, and that bolts up somewhere's in this neighborhood right here, which you can see I got a little interference on both sides over here for it to actually bolt up, but not too much more goes in the front here, so hopefully that's the last bit of trimming I got to do. At any rate, that's where I am with this. I don't believe I ever showed you this all completed here with this piece just sitting in here. I say complete. I still have to put a couple bolt downs in here to hold this plastic piece in, but that's what that cowl area looks like completed. It was a little hard to see how it was all uniform before because it looks like a jumbled mess, but that's where we're at now. Okay, so I'm trying to basically figure out how I want all this transition to happen, how I want the this fender to be secured up front. Of course, it's secured on this, will be secured on this bracket, which should be sufficient, really. I have this temporary piece in here, but I think I'm just going to trim it down a little bit and make it a permanent piece. But I have this large gap in here. As you can see, the Camino fender's arced over quite a bit more, and then it fades up to here. So I went ahead and I made this on this side here just as a solution to that. I basically have a plate here that I'm gonna have to weld in from the other side once I take the fender bag off. And I've left this in here, and it's bolted up at the back there right now where the hinge points are. Of course, I've started to cut this away over here so that I can weld these two pieces together. Once I do, then these are actually the bolts that hold the hood hinge on. So I'll go ahead and I'll just plug weld this onto this piece. There's a difference between the Buick fenders and the El Camino fenders in it, that the Buick fenders, for some reason or other, have a removable inner fender with this piece here. The El Camino fenders do not. I guess they're the same as they were on the Chevelle starting in '78, but they come with the inner fender, which I had to cut out, all welded together with the fender. It's all one piece. So it's been a bit of back and forth puzzling it out to see what parts are necessary to keep, which ones are not. I was worried that in this area over here I was going to need to figure out how to put some of this structure back in, but it's all, as they say, superfluous. The only thing I really needed was those two hinge points up there. Those hinge points are secured pretty sturdily with, I don't know if that's a word, sturdily, but anyway, this area here is pretty strong, that holds the fender on the top side. Then it's all part of this structure here, and through bolts into here. So this is all very solid right here. As you can see, that's solidly on the car, as is this now over here. Also, what I did here, I kind of breezed over it, is I made this little tab here that I could put one of these lock nuts right here, and then I put a tab on the fender itself. The reason that I'm choosing an alternate method from the way this is normally bolted up, in other words, you can see that there were fasteners here, and this was bolted to the inner fender, which is that piece over there. It was one of the ways that this upper rim was attached. Well, because of all of there's some interference issues here. In order to take this fender off, you almost have to swing it out like a door and then pull it out, which, if I have anything up behind this rim over here. In other words, if I have anything up behind this rim, I won't be able to swing it out. So the best thing for me to do is to be able to swing it in, bolt it here, and of course on these 2 locations at the front. And that should be sufficient. No need to go crazy with anything else. Anyway, that's where I am with this. And just kind of going along, sneaking up on it, fabricating it, and make sure I don't weld something that, you know, doesn't need to be welded up. And everything's just kind of screwed on, tacked on wherever it needs to be until I can get this all back apart. Anyway, moving on. All right, so I've gone ahead and I utilized the inner fender from the Camino, actually the Buick inner fender, and made a pattern up so that I could use it to reinforce this structure that I cut away. Remember, the Camaro had a large piece here that completed this structure, joined this inner panel to this lower panel, but it was too big clearance for the fenders that were going onto the car, so I cut it all back, minimized it, but now I put it back so that this inner wall here's got some support. It's not all wavy because it's just a single sheet of sheet metal there, and it's tied into the shock towers here, and then capped off on the top here, and that makes it a pretty rigid structure, remember, as opposed to just a flimsy piece of sheet metal completing that. I went ahead and cleaned up the radiator core support, and I painted it up before I'm about to weld it on here pretty soon. And I wanted to make sure that I had the inside back painted, and also this part of the Camaro painted, because I'll not be able to really get in there and paint it good. So the back side is painted, and all of this was cleaned up and painted along the way. I haven't started on this side yet. I think I'm just going to concentrate on finishing this one side over here first, and then jump over there. Just doing a little repair work over here on the Buick fascia. It's a little busted up. It's fiberglass, so I was just using a little bit of the T21 epoxy and fixing it up, getting it ready to maybe hang on there, see how that all goes. And that's about it for now. It's the end of the video for this session, so I'll leave it here. And I'd like to thank everybody that's following along with the project, and I appreciate y'all watching, and I will see you on the next one.